Hello, Facebook, YouTube, whoever. I think it's time for me to give a little bit of my background and a little bit about where I come from and how I got where I'm at. I was sort of trained up, especially by my dad, to be an atheist. And as a result of that, it was real hard for me to ever become a Christian. But I spent my years of, I guess, from 15 to 24 as a drunk and a drug addict. And, started out drinking was a lot of fun. I was a bartender by trade, and if I was going to put up all them drunks, I had to be drunk myself. So I drank plenty. But my drinking got me into pretty bad trouble. I ended up in prison. I was in prison for about 4 months and 4 days, and it was a long time. But shortly after I got to the high rise in Salisbury, I got a letter from my mom, and it told me that Shirley had had a really bad miscarriage. And I felt like it was my fault that she lost our baby. And I can just about guarantee you it was my fault. And I couldn't handle that. I couldn't handle that guilt. Felt like I had misbehaved to the point where I'd killed my own child. And I really wanted to write Shirley a letter and tell her how I was sorry, and how I'd suddenly come to realize that it wasn't the weather or the economy or the way I was raised or anything she'd done, but it was me. It was my own choices and my own drinking and my own misbehaving that had got us to where we were. I wanted to write her a letter so bad. But you know something? I didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. And a stamp for a first class letter cost 13 cents at the time. And that was beyond reach. And I hung myself from a sprinkler head that came out of the wall. And I used these two prison belts. They're like a Cub Scout, Boy Scout type belt, a cotton belt with like a little slide-through brass buckle. Well, I tied them 2 belts together and I hung myself. And I remember about within a millisecond of kicking that plastic chair out from under me, I was wishing I hadn't hung myself, because it hurt a lot worse than I thought it might. And I don't even remember losing consciousness, but I remember coming to on the concrete floor, and both of my knees were black and blue and yellow and swollen, and I was in pretty bad shape. I couldn't even kill myself and do that right. So I asked God, I said, hey, I don't believe in you, but if you're really there, you could prove it to me by sending me a 13-cent stamp. And I said, I'll even sweeten this deal for you, Lord. If you'll send me a 13-cent stamp, I'll read the Bible. from front to back. Ain't gonna change nothing, but I'll read the Bible from front to back. How's that for a deal? Well, the next day was a Sunday, and I had never gotten any mail on a Sunday. Mail don't run on Sunday. But somehow or another, I had gotten a package from somebody in the mail, and it had gotten lost in the activities of the bullpen, whatever. But I heard a guard down there hollering my name at the front gate. So I went down there and I thought, what in the world have I done here? And he said, I got a package for you. And I thought, well, I ain't never got a package on Sunday. But I took it from him and I looked at it, and it was wrapped up in a grocery sack, a brown paper bag, and had a return address on it. And it was this girl that used to come by my house all the time, trying to shove a Bible down my throat, trying to minister to my wife, and I had been really mean to her. She brought me a Bible over one night, and I was trying to get a fire lit in the wood heater. And I said, oh, thank you so much. And I grabbed that Bible and I started ripping the pages out of it and trying to start my fire. So I had been pretty mean to her. But here it was, she sent me a package on a Sunday. Well, I tore that thing open, and it was a King James Bible. And the hair stood up on the back of my arm. And I opened it up, and right in the front cover was 10 13-cent stamps. So I wrote Shirley that letter. And I told her, I said, you know, all this is my fault. And it's all got to do with my drinking and drugging. And I'm just really sorry. You deserve better than me. You know, and if you wanna head off in a new direction, I'll understand. Well, a deal's a deal. I promised the Lord if he'd get me a 13-cent stamp, that I'd read the Bible from front to back. Nothing to change, but I'd read the Bible from front to back. Well, I didn't know much about the Bible, but I remember all these people over the years saying, read the book of John, read the book of John, you know. So I got looking around in there, and there was several Johns in there. And I was confused as to which one. You know, John 1, 2, 3, and John. And so I said, well, I'll just try to simplify things here. I'll just go straight to St. John. And I read the book of St. John. And all of a sudden, a lot of things became clear to me. And I knew what I needed to do. But it defied all this logic I had been fed all my life. But I couldn't help myself. So I just said, okay, Lord, if you're really there, and if you really care, and if you can do anything with what's left of me, because let me tell you, there wasn't much left of me. There wasn't much at all. If you can do anything with what's left of me, I'm yours. And when I used to work at the liquor store, they'd have these real fancy decanters, bottles full of liquor that was in the shape of Elvis, you know, and he'd have his guitar and his little zoot suit and all that stuff on, and you'd just unscrew the cap off his head when you wanted to pour the liquor. Well, all of a sudden I felt like one of these Elvis decanters. I felt like somebody screwed my top off and poured warm oil, and it just filtered down to my toes. And for the first time in my existence, I think I felt what real love was. Love the way it ought to be. And I felt really special. Here I was in prison, and I couldn't even hang myself and get it right. And here I am feeling so special. I'm going to tell you something, my life ain't been the same since. It ain't been perfect. Ain't been easy. But it's been satisfying and worthwhile. It never had been before. So, what am I to do with this Jesus? More important, what is this Jesus going to do with me? He's done a lot of mighty amazing things for me ever since that day. But more than anything, he's made life worthwhile, okay? I don't know how else better to say it. But take it from an old atheist. Jesus saves. Because he sure saved me. Alright then, I reckon that's the sermon for the day. And y'all go on home and have some dinner and have roast preacher now, alright?